My pro tip is I always say, please ask any relevant questions before returning your answer. If you didn't give enough context or it can make the answer better, it will ask you back any questions. It's a game changer.
For another episode, folks. I'm stoked for a couple reasons. A, it was great content, but I get to reconnect with a friend. Katlin Hess, welcome to the show, everyone. Katlin and I have known each other 6 or so years, way back to her days when she was overseeing the marketing at TargetX. And she's since moved on and she's working in other verticals or industries today, but Katlin was always such a great advocate for me and our work at Canadian Company with her clients at TargetX. Was always super creative, and I think in a lot of the events that they're putting out, not that TargetX isn't doing it now, but back in the time we worked together, just phenomenal types of events and collaborations where we could really help bring forward ideas and innovations to your customers. So Katlin, welcome to the show. So excited to have you. You're now the Director of Customer Marketing at G2. So before we get too far into the actual content, what is customer marketing and how do you apply that at G2?
Yeah, so customer marketing, I have learned, is it looks a little different at every company, but mostly it's, I say broadly, marketing to and with your customers. So funny enough, I was doing a lot of this at TargetX, but we weren't calling it customer marketing. It was just part of our marketing. But it's everything from case studies, hosting customers on webinars, anytime a customer speaks on our behalf. And then it also looks like engagement activities, adoption, education. My team runs our G2 University, which is funny. They specifically liked that I had higher ed experience when they were looking for someone to build that. But it's really making sure our customers know how to leverage our products. We support them through marketing. And then, ideally they become advocates for us, and it's giving them a channel for that.
I assume that includes a lot of effort and understanding who your clients are, staying engaged and in touch with those clients to find who has the right story that you want to be able to tell and share. Then from there to be able to figure out how to craft that story.
For sure.
That might be a segue into what we're going to talk about today. So we've had this little series so far this season where we want to start talking a bit more about AI and how AI can support types of content creation and information gathering and the space of AI in our world. You can't go on LinkedIn and not find content focused around it, but all this content is really, to me, very high level, very fluffy, without really showing how you do those things, how you create content, what is a prompt, how do you learn how to write them, how do you iterate off of them to ensure what you get back as an output is the right output for yourself. And showing how other users who've been doing this for a while do it, I think, is a critical piece to help in that learning. And that's part of what we're trying to do. And I reached out for some help on LinkedIn to find people who are doing it really well. Katlin volunteered. So thank you for volunteering. And you're going to show us today how you leverage AI. So first, which tool do you use most often for this?
I most often use ChatGPT. So sort of what's available to everyone. We have other tools that we leverage internally that are for specific use cases. I actually have a really cool tool. You were talking about building relationships, finding customers for case studies. It actually listens in to our customer calls that our sales team is having or our customer success team is having. And it will surface potential quotes for me to use from the videos, but it will also look at, could this person be a good advocate? And so It has been amazing in I don't have to ask the question or say I'm looking for a customer with this specific use case and the CSMs have to rack their brain and find somebody. I can put in we were running a specific campaign around G2 for sales teams. And so I put in that as a search term and it started to surface stories that I probably wouldn't have found otherwise. And we're also now, that same tool has a chat bot that we fed all of our customer stories to, all of our big wins, G2 reviews. And you can do the same thing in Slack and say, do we have a customer who's been seeing success with X use case? And it sends you the top 5 customers to potentially reach out to. So really
So,
cool.
this, folks, this is why this show is unscripted, because we wouldn't have uncovered that without, like,
Yeah,
um, that's amazing.
it's really
I haven't
cool.
even, that's, a use of AI. I'm sure we're not thought about, but could you imagine, um, if we were to able capture somehow notes from conversations with students, not privileged ones, of course, that can then identify who might be the best potential folks that you leverage and use as your student stories that you want to market and highlight. It could be conversations you record with admission counselors or other student leaders across campus or other students who've done successful research projects. And having let it all pool together. You don't have to be the one to interview them all. It could have been anyone of you. Have it recorded and say, okay, here's someone who's done X. And it just, come on.
Yeah.
What?
Well, and
What?
also too, now that I'm saying this, it reads from Salesforce. So our team, beyond just the calls, beyond the stuff that exists, our team tracks what we call big wins with
Yep.
customers. So if they're having a conversation and a customer says, you know, I ran this campaign, it was 20% more effective than my other campaign, they track that in a field in Salesforce. And then this Slack bot reads that. And so if I'm looking, show me someone who's had success with a campaign who has a hard metric, it surfaces that. So there's probably
Wow.
something. Maybe we just came up with a new company idea.
Right there. Perfect. All right. Value. You're getting value right back. You're sharing your expertise as the value to our listeners and viewers, and now you're getting value right back. That's woo, win-win. Um, I don't know that I've ever used that term like that live in a real, like, win. Oh, it's a real win-win, because it's such a sales thing to me,
Yep.
and so I'm biased against it. But it is a win-win. All right. So today you're going to So you've got several tools, but today we're going to look at ChatGPT, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So why don't
And
you share your screen and let's walk through what you want to do, and let's see the
cool.
process as it happens.
Share here. And so you mentioned this earlier, but mostly I use ChatGPT to help me write content.
Yes.
So when I'm sending a customer email, I might have an idea of here are the key messages that I want to send, but like staring at the blank page is always a tough spot to be in. And so I'll put it into
Yeah.
ChatGPT and just get a first draft, and it's much easier to take that first draft and edit it. Or even this morning, I had a case study that I wrote that was 1,000 words, and I needed the 200 word summary to put on a one pager. And so I fed the chat GPT, or I fed it the full case study and asked it to write me a summary in 200 words
Mm.
and include at least one quote from a customer. And what came out was like, I made maybe a handful of edits, but it was pretty much good to go. So that saved me like an hour of work. But what I wanted to show today, I have two specific examples in mind. The first is I do a lot of customer interviews as part of my day to day work, and we are launching a new, we're calling it Conversations with Customers series that kicks off next week. But for my September customer, I am in the process of building like what is the interview questions, or what are the interview questions that I'm going to send to her. And so when I think about ChatGPT, I always say please. That's my number one tip. Mostly I do it in case the robots take over someday. I want to make sure that they know that I respect them and appreciate them. But I have also heard that it can make your results better if you ask nicely. So I
Which
always
I
love
think is
that.
is A, intriguing, B, phenomenal, C, scary, and D, conspiracy theorist
Right.
minded. So,
Here we are.
so all right. All right. So let's get started. Let's see how
Yeah.
this process works for you. So we're going to create some content. Or you want to start with the post?
Why don't we start with the interview questions and
Okay.
then
Start with
we'll
interview
flip over
questions.
to
All
the
right.
post? Yeah.
Okay.
So I always start by sort of telling it what I'm trying to do. So I am going to be interviewing one of our customers for an upcoming LinkedIn Live series called Conversations with Customers. And then I give it like as much context and as much information as I can.
Okay.
So the audience is going to be B2B SaaS marketers and sales people. And I do like that it tells you if you spelled something wrong. So that's sort of the like, here's what it is, here's what I'm trying to do. Can you please help me come up with at least 10 questions? And then I'll say, my guest is the director of customer marketing. And usually I would give the specific person and their title, but for these purposes, we'll keep it vague. At a SaaS company in the accounts payable space. Here is how she describes herself.
I like this additional type of context.
LinkedIn.
This is getting deep in terms of their. So you're pulling this from LinkedIn, something they have in their bio about themselves or something like that?
Exactly.
All right. It's not just give me some generic questions. We're giving it more context.
Okay. Yeah, like Oprah level questions.
Oprah level. Okay. There's a new term.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, ChatGPT. I need some Oprah level questions.
Honestly, I wonder, we should do it once and then see if I say I want them to be Oprah level, what it gives me.
Yes. I want to ask these questions as if I was Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, we'll try that. So I would say the theme of the session will be on how to bring visibility to your customer marketing program, both internally and externally. I want the audience to learn from her expertise and come away with actionable takeaways. And so I'm telling it, like giving it as much context as possible, who my guest is going to be, and then what I want the theme of this to be, and specifically what I want the outcome to be. So I've included a lot of information. My other pro tip is I always say, please ask any relevant questions before returning your answer. This will...
Okay.
Yeah, so it will, like if you didn't give enough context or it can make the answer better, it will ask you back any questions. So we'll see what happens here.
That's a great tip.
Yeah,
I've never tried that before.
Been a game changer. Let's see.
And that'll definitely help with the iteration process. If it's asking that before it gives you answers, you might skip maybe 2 rounds of iterations potentially.
For sure. And this one, you can see I gave a lot of input, so it didn't have any other questions. But even when I was saying this morning, like I ran the query to give me a summary, it asked me, is there anything specifically you want to make sure we highlight in the summary?
Oh, great.
Which was cool. Because then I was like, oh, let me think about that.
If you didn't do that, what happens when they skip it? Now you either have to say, add this to it, which then could throw it off, or you might start back over.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. So it just improves the output. So you can see here, I got those 10 questions and they're pretty good, honestly. I'm going to copy and paste this before I close out here. So I have it to save, or I'll come back to it. But it basically says these are tailored to draw insight from your guests that will resonate with this space, focusing on exactly what I asked it for. So it's pretty cool. Like I didn't say anything about case studies. I didn't say anything about advocacy programs, but it knew enough that that's what I would want to be asking about. So that's pretty cool. Let's see if I'd say, I always tell it when it was good. That was great. Can you give me 10 questions, but written as if you were Oprah Winfrey?
I love it.
And I love that. Channeling my inner Oprah.
Look, it did. It started wording the questions.
Yeah, you're a storyteller at heart.
So it cues up the question. This is fantastic.
I might have to use these Oprah style questions.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You never know the sincere moments that you create in their answers. So how long did it take you to learn how to do this to get to the point where you knew how much context you wanted to provide? Days, weeks, months?
It was probably, I would say, within a week, I was definitely better. And then I'd say it was probably months before I got to a place where I was really sure of what I needed to include. And a lot of that came from also asking the GPT, like, do you have any questions? Now I can sort of anticipate what it might ask.
Mm.
And so that's why I included things from her LinkedIn. It's why I included who the audience is. It's why I included the takeaways. But I also feel like if you're not an expert, you can sort of ask the GPT to help make your prompt a little bit better. That's probably my one big pro tip. And then also for me, I'm doing the same things in here a lot. And so I'll save my prompts. So I
Yeah.
know I'm writing case studies, I'm doing summaries, I'm writing interview questions. I have just a Google Doc that has all of the prompts that I've used that I've liked the results from. And so the next time I go in to do something similar, I mostly copy and paste and just swap out the information. But I would say that has probably taken me months to get to the point where I'm doing that.
So here's my tip, and I don't know, viewers, how all these episodes are going to fall into order, but
Sure.
tip I learned from another episode we have on this, the prompter told ChatGPT to memorize this prompt.
Okay.
And then before it starts a prompt, show me what you've memorized for prompts, and it'll find the one it has, and then it'll start with that type of prompt or tweak it as
Smart.
necessary.
Okay.
Yes,
That's great.
yes. So that was, I had never thought of that, but since you were talking about you copy move it over,
Yeah.
he just has it all within GPT. Memorize this prompt. In fact, when he started his example, show me your memorized prompts. That's how he started, and then from there went to the actual topic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I'm going to
Yep.
take that pro tip.
Yeah.
This was a win-win episode.
Yes. Okay. Now, I think this is phenomenal. So how close to say you had 10 questions, how close do you think this would be? Are you 70% there, 80%, 20%?
Yeah, I'd say with these, I mean, obviously would want to dig in a little
Yes.
deeper and read through them, but like from what I've scanned, I'd say 70 to 80% there.
Wow.
And I think it's because, and I know the person who I'm interviewing too, and I know a lot about her. I
Yep.
think
And you can
including
feed
that,
that in and on top of it to get it to ensure you're at that 80%. So it
yeah,
took us 4 minutes,
yeah,
about 4 minutes, maybe six at most, to if you get rid of my jibber jabber, 4 minutes, to go from starting a prompt to coming up with these questions, maybe three if we take out the over piece of it.
sure.
How long would it normally take you to come up with these questions on your own otherwise?
Oh gosh, probably, I mean, at least an hour, right? If not longer. And
Okay.
I would say like doing the research, figuring out what that person's area of expertise was, knowing sort of what I want to talk about, like writing the prompt. In this case, I had an idea what I wanted to do, so that probably
Mm-hmm.
saved me some time. But like you saw all of that sort of brain dump that I had from a prompt.
Yeah.
If I was taking that myself and trying to synthesize that into 10 questions, it would be, yeah, probably about an hour. And getting the wording just right. And then also the like, am I actually hitting the outcomes that I want to? I wouldn't be as
Yes.
sure about that. This feels a little bit more objective too. Like I specifically said, this is the outcome. I feel like I trust that it'll get me pretty close.
Awesome. All
Yeah.
right. So we got one more example.
Yeah.
What are we going to do next? I think we did
So,
LinkedIn post, right? Is that what you want to do?
yeah,
A social post?
I recently started a LinkedIn series called This Week in Customer Marketing. And you were
Okay.
talking about knowing your customers. I'm very lucky. A lot of our customers are customer marketers. And so, what I have the benefit of is talking to other customer marketers pretty much every day. And so, I've been taking a roundup of things that I've learned and sharing those out every week. And so, I use ChatGPT to sort of help me synthesize, here's my list of all of the things that I'm taking away. Can you help me craft a message that's good for LinkedIn? But what I'm going to, or what I'm planning to post about this week is actually last week we were in person for what we call our
Mm-hmm.
mid-year meetup. And
Okay.
so I have 3 key takeaways that I want to make sure I include in a post, but I don't know. I'm at that point where I've been like thinking about it for so long. I don't know how to put it into a post. And so what I'll ask is, can you please help me write a LinkedIn post about my time in Chicago last week for G2's mid-year meetup? I would like it to be in a friendly, casual tone. Here are my key takeaways. And so I actually pre-wrote these, so I'll put them here so I don't get them wrong. But basically, I really loved getting to spend time with my coworkers in person. Our team has gone through some big changes recently, and we spent a lot of time talking about our Enneagrams, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite part was getting to join in our revenue org session, because rather than focusing on sales, the focus was on inspiring customer love and leaning into supporting our customer success. And then I'll ask, please ask any relevant questions before answering. And so we'll see what it gives me. This was pretty cool. This is probably a little bit wordy for what I would post on LinkedIn. So I might say,
it's just getting started for my posts. Mine are.
This was good.
Yes. Yep.
Can you rewrite with this in a bulleted list format and include more emojis? We'll try that and see what it says. And it's kind of fun. I'm actually really bad at mapping emojis to what I'm saying. Like I forget about the variety of options available. And so I love when I do this, like it gave me the 2 girls dancing for quality time. Like that's kind of cute. Or the brain for Enneagram. So it makes it a little bit more fun. Something like this, I will definitely, because it's posted with my name specifically, I'll take the time to rewrite this so that it's in my voice. What I've done before, and actually what I did this morning I had a case study transcript. So it was like an hour-long call with a customer. And I asked ChatGPT to help me write a case study, basically. And I fed it also 2 former case studies that I had written myself. And I said, please write it in this style and this voice. And so if we had more time, I probably could feed it 3 or 4 of my past LinkedIn posts.
Gotcha.
And it would write it in my voice, which is pretty cool.
I'm buzzing. I like, and it's throwing out those, I would say, organic, fun sounding, human sounding for sure. That's great.
Yeah. So and it's gotten a lot better, I would say, like since I first started using it. And I know like ChatGPT 4.0, that was a big part of what they were getting at. Right. But I think the fact that I told it, like, make it casual, make it friendly, gives you a different output than if I would have said, make it professional. It would have been buzzwords.
And I've played with tone a little bit, and it does have some impact when you give it a type of tone to include. I do write long LinkedIn posts. I own that. But what I would say is, if I actually had if I would give all of my posts to this, it probably would say, because a long post might take me an hour and a half to sift through, or I might spend 30 minutes, walk away and come back the next day and do another 30 minutes. Sometimes I lose the entire point. I have to delete everything and never get it posted.
Been there, yeah.
And so there's time lost, but then there's just the time of doing this that could potentially really reduce those hours into 15 minutes or 5 minutes, 2 minutes, once I'm really good at this. How long have you been using it for posting? Have you always used it for posting?
Not always. I would say I probably started at the beginning of this year, and it was like, I was really leaning into, I want to make sure that I'm posting every single week. This summer I've slipped a little bit, but it made it so that was possible. So even if I had like a super busy week and I just felt like, oh my God, my brain's fried, I don't even know. Like I have this random list of things. How do I turn it into a post? This gets me so much closer. And then I'm having editing, for me at least, takes so much less brain power than writing from scratch. And it also sometimes will make connections that I don't know that I would have made myself, but maybe I subconsciously did because I had them in the same list. But then I'm like, oh, that is actually a really good point. That's not what I meant by that, but hey, that works. And like I was talking about, it was something to do with the power of video. And I meant it more as like, you're capturing customers and giving them an opportunity to spotlight themselves. But what it came back with was like the authenticity that comes from video as opposed to a written quote. And I was like, that's absolutely true. And I totally know that to be true, but I didn't say that, and it said it for me. So it's a little bit scary, but kind of cool that it did that too.
For that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I would say too, like if you're feeling frustrated by the results, there's a chance that maybe your prompt could be better. And that was a big learning for me. And I feel like that's sometimes the barrier to entry for people is like, I tried it, my results weren't that good.
It's a lot like our technology implementations. When you run
Sure.
into a problem, it's 99% people
Yeah.
and 1% technology, and the
Yeah.
decisions that the people make that create limitations around the technology. So, the effort you put into prompting is really what creates the limitations and what the
Yeah.
output of content can be. Caitlin, thank you. This is really cool to have you on the show to share this, to also reconnect
Yeah. So good to
with
see you.
someone who's spent so much time in higher ed. So thanks for joining us for that. Everyone, I hope you found this episode really helpful. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Oh, and don't forget, like, subscribe, comment. The rules and the laws that I have to say that for podcasts are there. I might be arrested if I don't say it. So thank you so much for listening and watching.